about 4 o'clock, so we can get started. So today we're going to talk about college and Tourette syndrome and going to college and the experiences that myself and Haley have had going through school. So I'll let them introduce themselves and I'll introduce myself. I'm Katie. I'm a rising leader with the Tourette Association. I'm an alumnus of the University of Akron here in Ohio. I have a bachelor's in nursing, and I'm currently a nurse in Cleveland.
I'll go first, which is Haley. I'm Haley without the extra Y, Haley. I'm the Youth Ambassador Rising Leader for the Tourette Association of America, and I just recently graduated this past December from the University of Montevallo with a bachelor's in psychology.
And I'm Haley with the extra Y. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I just graduated from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia with my bachelor's in psychology. And I'm waiting for acceptance to PA school.
Awesome. So if anyone has questions as we go, just put a comment in the comment bar and we will either answer your question or we can have you unmute yourself and then we have you ask your question and then we will answer those as we go along. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask them now, but if not, we can just get started talking a little bit about some of our experiences in choosing colleges and how we came to our decisions to with Tourette and going to college. So I don't know if Haley, you want to talk about that.
Haley, you can go first.
Yeah, so I actually went to community college first. I graduated high school in 2014, and I decided to go to community college first just because I wasn't real sure on what I wanted to major in. Also, it's less expensive. I understand going to a four-year schools can be really pricey if you don't have the means for it. So I transferred in 2018 to the University of Montevallo in Montevallo, Alabama. It is the only public liberal arts school in Alabama, which is pretty cool. They're a very inclusive school, so going to college with any sort of disorder or disability was not a problem for me or for anybody. For me especially, I had a single dorm room, so I was by myself, so I didn't have to worry about possibly bothering a dorm mate. It was a big fear of mine, and I also really enjoy my alone time. I think I study better with that, and my teachers were very understanding as well. And my peers, it didn't really bother anybody ever. Actually, everyone was just pretty chill there.
So I chose where I was going to go to college because it's close to where I'm from. And I am kind of a homebody. I didn't really want to be too far away from my family. And I ended up choosing Old Dominion University. And it is known for being very culturally diverse. And so I felt comfortable knowing that I was going to a school where there's a lot of, like I said, diversity, and it made me feel a little bit more comfortable to totally be myself. So that was really great. And I didn't research any of the disability services before because I didn't really know that was a thing, if I'm being honest. So I kind of just figured it out as I went along.
Yeah, for me, I didn't really look at much with disability services either. Kind of like Haley, before I picked where I wanted to just go somewhere closer to home to have that support. So I went to school 30 minutes from where I was from, which was good because I still could live at school, but also have that support from family. I just figured out the disability services as I went once I enrolled in school. It wasn't always easy, but I did figure it out as I went along.
Yeah, so I've never had as much of an issue with any of the tics or anything. Of course I have them, but they're more mild. My issue has always been like my OCD and anxiety. So that was definitely a struggle to deal with in college. And that's where I found the like disability services were really helpful, because I made sure that I had my neurologist write a note that I needed extra time on my tests. And I was able to go to a private testing center and be in the quiet by myself, and I got double time, which was really helpful. So it, like I said, I didn't really research ahead of time. It was more just, all right, I'm going to this college because it fits everything that I want, and we'll figure out the disability services from there.
Yeah, I thought about that when I transferred to Montevallo, because I knew there was disability support services. I didn't think I needed them really, and I didn't really use them. Besides having just a dorm by myself, that was just honestly just a coincidence, and I'm glad that I ended up getting a dorm by myself. All I really did was just I would tell my professors, I was like, hey, so I have Tourette syndrome. It shouldn't be that much of a bother. I'm pretty good at suppressing it, but you know, they were pretty open about, oh, okay, well, let me know if you have sensory issues as well, or if you need to step out, that's okay, and anything you need. They were really really open about it, and willing to help me, which was good. But I didn't thankfully I didn't really need to go to an extra room, although I thought about it. I think it would have benefited me more. I just never thought about it, or extra time on exams.
Yeah, for me, it took a long time to figure out like the services that I needed and figure out how to work the system, because I went to a really big school. We had 30,000 people. So it took a long time for me to figure out what I needed and how to access those services and get like the proper support I needed. So for a while I struggled with my professors and telling them like, this is what's going on. It's not like, I'm not trying to be rude, and I'm not trying to be a disruption to their class. And so sometimes they didn't understand that, and they weren't as accommodating until I figured out like the people that were helpful in making sure that I got the accommodations I needed. It was also a big adjustment because like in high school, your parents can help you a lot with this, but in college, you have to do it a lot on your own, because the schools just don't work with parents. So once I figured it out and I got like my doctors to help me get the documentation in order, I got like testing in a reduced space by myself, and I got extra time, and then I really started to do well.
All right, Emily, I'm reading your questions right now. I definitely understand choosing a college and major is stressful. I personally didn't choose my major until I was a sophomore. I just went in my first year and I did my general undergrad gen ed classes and waited to choose my major until I kind of decided what I wanted to do. And that really took a lot of stress off my shoulders. I think that people that are coming and telling you about colleges, they say, oh, you have to choose your major, you have to, know exactly what you want to do. And I found that really stressed me out. So I definitely understand that. But I just waited and took my own time, and it worked out. And then I didn't live in the dorms, so I can't answer about the roommates, but talking to teachers, I literally just went in at the very beginning of every single semester to every one of my teachers, and I told them, mainly because I was concerned about the testing accommodations because I take a long time on tests, but I just wanted them to be aware that if, I needed to leave the room, that I wasn't trying to be rude, like Katie was saying. Just letting them know, I think, is really important. And high school accommodations, I don't know. That might vary state by state, whether they transfer over. I didn't find that mine did. I didn't have an IEP. do all states have IEPs? I don't know how that works actually.
I think so.
Okay. So I didn't have an IEP. I had a 504 and with extra time, and that didn't transfer over to college. I had to get it separately.
Yeah, I can kind of speak to that. So I had accommodations in high school, but in college you start over. You have to, the whole process is completely different because there's different laws involved with college and accommodations. So for me, I had different testing room and more time in high school, which I did have the same thing in college, but something else that I had in college that I didn't have in high school is like, for my professors, they put in like communications in writing that like they couldn't allow, like they had to allow me to be able to participate equally in every activity that any other student did, because that was one of the struggles I had. I'm, as a nursing student, like some of my professors thought like I wasn't going to be able to do everything that the rest of the people could, which is just a myth about Tourette's that people don't understand. And so they gave me like they made like a statement in my accommodations that said like, she's able to do what everyone else can do. It's just she makes more sounds and noises and movements, but it doesn't hinder her ability to think or reason or participate. So that was something that was different from high school to college, but really was super helpful. I did live in the dorms and had a roommate. At the time, my tics weren't super bad, but I told my roommate up front, like before I even met her, about the tics, because I didn't want it to be a surprise. You know, that was the biggest thing for me, is I was like, I'm not gonna come in and just surprise someone with all the noises and sounds and movements. So, and my roommate really didn't mind it at all. Like, she said I would tic while I slept, which was kind of weird because she could hear me. But other than that, we didn't have any issues with it. But I think just being honest, and I think a lot of schools, if you're really nervous about it, can work with you as far as roommates and things like that.
I think it's important to note that you're not like required to tell, honestly, anybody about your disability. There is confidentiality in that. I personally just would, not out of just like respect for those around you, but so you go ahead and get out there so nobody's judging you or gets mad at you. I did make the mistake when I was living in the dorm by myself, not telling anybody around me that I had Tourette's. And I waited till later to tell my RA because, I had a knock on the door one night, and they were saying that I was being really loud, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. So I would tell them just to make sure of any of that so they don't get too upset.
Yeah, so Wendy asked what we did with our letters from neurologists, like with when we're at school to Hayley and I. I gave mine, there was an office called the Office of Accessibility, and I just gave mine to them, and then they read it and they determine the accommodations that you are like allowed to have and they can do for you.
Yeah, about the letter, I did the same thing. I gave it to the disability, I forgot what mine is called.
Disability support services.
Yeah, something like that. Hold on, sorry, my Wi-Fi keeps like cutting out, so I'm trying to figure out. Okay, well, we're just gonna work with this. Let's see. But Sarah, I wanted to answer your question really quick. Besides the extra time and separate testing room, that was the main thing for me. But when I was a freshman, I did consider living in the dorms, and I mentioned to the disability services that I would feel more comfortable in a room by myself. And I have a lot of like I said, OCD has always been a lot of my issues. So I have a lot of OCD around eating and like what I put in my body. So I didn't want to eat at the dining hall. So I don't know, I had them put in there that I would get my own kitchen as well. So it would be like upperclassmen apartment living, but I didn't end up doing that. But they, I know that if you have, you just chat with someone and are honest and let them know your struggles, I found people to be very, very accommodating and understanding.
Yeah. So then someone else asked about talking to teachers at the beginning of the semester to let classmates know what would we recommend. So would we recommend like telling people, like asking to tell classmates at the beginning of the semester?
I would recommend it just to get it out in the open. So yeah, they're going to be more understanding than you might think. At least that's what I found, is that a lot of people are just like, oh, okay, cool. They don't really care as much, or if they are confused, you can explain it to them.
I think for me, I really was selective of who I told. I didn't always tell my classmates. Looking back, I probably think it would have been a good idea, because a lot of times rumors would just spread because people wouldn't know what I was doing and saying and why I was doing it. So it sometimes didn't work out as well for me. So sometimes I wish I would have just said something and been upfront with my classmates and my teachers. I was usually always upfront with the professors because it was easier that way. But I think it's a good idea if you feel like confident and that you can educate people about it. And there's a lot of great resources on Tourette.org of how to educate people if that's something you think would really be helpful for you.
Yeah, and as far as you don't like not wanting to disturb others, people can also go to the library to study if it's really that much of a problem. And you can as well if you don't want to study in your dorm. If you're studying, like if you are in like a dormitory, usually there are like study rooms as well, or like little halls where you can go. But most libraries should have more than one level when it comes to noise. So, at my library, we have the basement level. You can be as loud as you want. Middle, second level, just be, kind of sort of quiet. And then top level was like silent. So if that's something that you'd be worried about, that I would, try to find a college that also provides that.
Yeah. So Emily asked, were we rising leaders in college? And if so, how did we handle being both? And if not, would you recommend doing both? I was not a rising leader in college, but I would recommend it for sure.
So yeah, I was a rising leader my last year of college because I just didn't really know about it. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 18 with Tourette syndrome. So I didn't have any accommodations growing up. No IEP or 504, nothing really. My teachers, none of them knew growing up, and honestly neither did I. I just knew I was weird, or at least that's what I thought. But once after I turned 18, I was trying to figure out what college I even wanted to go to. By then I had a pretty good control of my text as far as I knew, and just didn't really care that much. But yeah, so I found out about the Rising Leaders program in 2019, the spring 2019. So that's when I decided to go for it. So I was only a Rising Leader my last semester.
I was also not a Rising Leader while I was in college. I had already graduated. But like Katie said, I absolutely would recommend it. It was a great way to approach the subject. It would have been a great way if you were uncomfortable with just coming right out and saying like, hey, telling someone about your diagnosis, then it was a great way to, have a reason to bring it up. And yeah, I thought that it was, I would have liked to be one thing while I was in undergrad.
Yeah, I think we learned so many skills and tools of how to talk about Tourette and just like be a leader in general, that being a rising leader adds so much to like your abilities of public speaking and confidence, and having like a support network of people with Tourette that are your age. I think it's just an awesome way to get involved in the community.
Oh, 100%.
So Sarah, I wanted to go ahead and address your question about writing about our diagnosis in essays for college. I honestly, I don't remember what my essay was about, whether I did or not from undergrad. But for my application to PA school, I definitely did. And I mean, it's the same thing with application for undergrad. These colleges like having diversity at their school, not just like racial diversity or religious diversity. They like having all types of diversity. So it was a great thing that set me apart, I think, and that sets all of us apart. That makes us unique. And I mean, you might as well use it to the best of your advantage. And I found it to be a great thing to write about because it's very personal.
Yeah, I didn't write about it in my essays because I wasn't diagnosed till after I was already in school officially with Tourette. So, but I think it would be, like Hayley said, a good thing to write about.
I agree. I did not write that on my college essay. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. So I don't remember what I wrote. But I wish I had. I feel like that would have been an awesome thing to write about. Later in life, though, for college assignments and essays, I did write about Tourette syndrome.
Yep. It's like my go-to to always write about like overcoming struggles. I mean, because it is something that you have to deal with on a regular basis, and it takes a great amount of strength in all of us to be able to, you know, just come to acceptance with it and go about our daily life. Because sometimes it's so frustrating, as you all know. So I think that it is a really great speak point for, you know, how you overcame something in your life. And not even just for college, like for job interviews and everything, just as a side note, I've always talked about that as well.
I put it on a resume that I am a rising leader. Mm-hmm. So it kind of gets it out there without me having to explicitly say it. But that might be another topic for another day, talking about jobs.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, I've talked about it in job interviews, and it shows a lot of resiliency and commitment when people hear like what you go through and like how you've overcome that. So I think in an essay or in like talking about it is a good thing, you know, if you're comfortable. But that's always a choice you have. You don't have to disclose to anyone. It's always what you feel comfortable doing.
That's why I usually disclose later after I've gotten the job. Anyway, so I'm like, I got the job security.
Let's see, Emily. I personally have not, my tics have always been very mild, as I said at the beginning, mostly like clearing my throat, sniffing. During cold season, I definitely have to let people know because it gets really bad, and everyone like gives me nasty looks and they're like, can you go get water, please? But other than that, I've never personally had anyone not be accepting because I just haven't had a lot of like verbal, I haven't had, you know, any swearing tics or anything.
Yeah, I've had the experience of like professors not being very kind about my tics. And it was really just because they didn't understand what was going on and they didn't understand how to handle the situation. And I wasn't super confident in my ability to like explain it at that time because it was still a new thing for me. And my tics were pretty severe. Like I was yelling and like these full body tics. So like, I had some struggles with that. And so I was sometimes like when I was in my like clinical rotations for school, I wasn't allowed to do things because my professors were afraid I was going to do something that I wasn't supposed to do, which is just a myth they didn't understand. So like once I like got it all sorted out with disability services and talked to them and told them like what was going on in the classroom and clinical sites, like we got it cleared up really quickly. And then the professors were always very like they always told me like they thanked me for educating them, and then like we worked it out and there was never any hard feelings about it. It was always just like if it was a challenge. Something that had to be worked through, and people just had to be educated, because not a lot of people in college have Tourette's, because some people outgrow the tics, so it's not something that a lot of professors always have seen. So it's just, you just have to really be able to educate people about it.
Yep. Let's see, back to Wendy. I personally, as I said, I did not work with disability services before college. I think maybe after you've been like accepted and you've committed to a college, it might be a good idea to go ahead and reach out and let them know that, about your diagnosis, so that they kind of have time to process that. But I feel like it might be kind of hard and unnecessary if you say it to every college and try to set it up with every college that you apply to, and you don't end up going to most of them except for one. So, and also Sarah, actually, no, go ahead. Does anyone else have any comments on it? Sorry.
You're fine. I would recommend it just because it's available to you, and I would take advantage of every resource that is made available to you by the college that you choose.
Right. For sure, the college that you choose, yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend it at least before you start going to classes, to get something set up or in the works, because once classes start, it's kind of hard to get all that rolling. If you have it from the beginning, it's really easy to just flow into it and make adjustments as you go.
Let's see. Sarah, I was in Greek life. I found it to be very supportive for me. It's not for everybody, but I let everybody know about it in my sorority, and I felt like it was helpful to me to have people that understood as much as they can, but people that kind of had my back and everything like that. I don't know if you guys were involved in anything else.
I was not. Like I said, I did transfer to a four-year college, but also it just wasn't in my interest. I was just way more focused on my education and really just wanted to be done because I feel like I took so much time in my life trying to figure out what I finally wanted to do, which was psychology. So I was just like, I don't know. But also money too is something that people don't want to talk about. Sometimes financial struggles might not be able to fulfill that, unfortunately. But I'm glad how everything turned out.
Yeah, I was involved in a lot in college. I kept myself really busy. I worked with residence life and housing at the school I went to. I was involved in a lot of leadership organizations, academic groups. It was really hard to balance sometimes between all of the different things I was doing and school and going to doctor's appointments, but I wouldn't have changed it. I loved everything I did, and it gave me so much experiences that I can talk about, and that I really have lasting memories that made a difference in my college experience. So I would recommend getting involved. It's a good way to keep yourself focused on school too, if you're someone who needs a lot of stimulation to be focused, because I know when I'm not doing a whole lot, I don't study, but when I have a really regimented schedule, I did really well.
Yeah, and when you said regimented schedule, I found that was my key to having a successful college experience, was having a very structured day, I guess. I would have my planner. I could not survive without my planner. I literally would go through at the very beginning of every semester and write down every assignment that was due, because my OCD would make me constantly feel like I was missing something. So I found that was the best way for me, making sure I had everything written down and checking every so often to make sure that I was keeping up. But the regimented was very important for me, establishing a routine.
I did the same thing. I had my planner. I wrote things down on my phone. I printed out every syllabus in color. Everything was color coordinated for me, so it helped me. Because I found that OCD was more of a challenge personally than tics in particular, just because it would kind of control my day, if that kind of makes sense. When I'm trying to start something, I have all these other things that I need to get done. So doing things one at a time it's hard, but I tried to focus on that and make sure that that was my goal, not to get way too overwhelmed, because that does happen really easily.
Yeah, I agree. Planners was like a key to my success, because for me, my ADHD keeps me all over the map with, like, in my head, I'm like bouncing from wall to wall and trying to figure out what to do with every minute of the day. So like having a planner and having like homework assignments written down was really, really helpful and a great way to keep me organized.
Yes, I did not do that my first year of college, and it was a disaster. I mean, I was able to get it, keep it all together because they were pretty, basic classes that I was in. But when I got into my major classes, oh my gosh, I would have died if I didn't have my planner. So it's like my lifeline. So I highly suggest it to anyone, even people who don't have Tourette's. It's just a planner necessary.
So Emily asked if we started any clubs about TS awareness or mental health in college. I didn't, as part of like, when I was in residence life and housing, I planned programs and I did some around mental health and I talked about Tourette's, but I didn't do anything specifically about Tourette's other than like I wrote a paper in nursing school about it and presented on that, but I didn't start any clubs or anything like that.
Yeah, like we had different events and activities, that was supposed to enhance our mental health and really be good for us. But we didn't really have any club per se, if that makes sense. It was just different activities throughout the campus that were done in order to improve your mental health.
I didn't, start any clubs. I found being in a sorority was helpful for me because it gave me, like I said, I'll repeat exactly why I felt like sorority was good for me. It helped, give me a support system. And I did educate, I gave like a presentation to my sorority to let them know, what was going on and how it was to have it. But I honestly never looked into creating a club. In hindsight, I think that would have been a really great idea. Definitely a good way to get involved.
I think that'd be awesome to do like a Tourette Syndrome philanthropy. If there's any like sorority that would want to do that, that sounds awesome though.
Yeah, that would be really cool. We'll start one.
Okay, just us. We'll call it TS.
Make our own sorority.
Yeah. Arista asked, did you meet any other people at your school with TS or tics? I did not. I was the only one, at least that I knew of. I did meet somebody who has obsessive compulsive disorder, and we bonded a lot through that because she had gotten comments before thinking that a lot of her compulsions might have been tics. And I was like, I get that all the time. Like they intertwine so much. So I thought that was interesting. But no, never anybody who actually had a tic disorder or Tourette syndrome.
Yeah, I never met anyone with tics or Tourette's. I feel like I could point out if people had tics, but I never would say anything unless they told me. But no one that ever like talked about it openly to me.
Yeah, I was the same way. I didn't, it's not like in high school where you have classes with the same people. You have tons of different people in every class that you're in. So it's really, it's not impossible. You could do it, but it's hard to connect with everyone in your classes, especially, my chemistry class had 400 people in it. So it's hard to connect with everyone.
especially in the beginning when it's your general education courses.
Yes, maybe when you're in your major. I know a lot of majors are smaller, like nursing, it tends to be smaller. We have a dental hygiene program at my school that is smaller. Psychology is humongous. But there are majors that are smaller that you can look into if you are looking to have some sort of camaraderie with people. Let's see. Natalie, so like I was just saying, you're not with you're not with all the same people in every class. So it was different because it wasn't the same people over and over again exposed to, your tics. So I found that sometimes it wasn't really even necessary to tell all of my classmates. Like I said, my tics are not very bad. They're not like super verbal, so I didn't find it necessary. But being in a big group of people was definitely different, and I felt very overwhelmed at first. Like I said, my chemistry class had 400 people in it, my biology class as well. It was overwhelming, but I got used to it, but it was definitely a big culture shock.
Yeah, I think you'll find that in college, a lot more people are just open and understanding. Like I've said, they're just more accepting and willing to learn more about your disorder than maybe in high school when you kind of grew up with everybody. And maybe they quite understood it or just never, found the maturity to even talk about it. More college students are a lot more welcoming.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, college was that the teachers in high school were more supportive and like wanted to do everything they can to be more like helpful. I think in college you have to be your own advocate in a way, and you really have to like figure out what you need and then find the people to ask for that. So I was part of a scholarship program where they provided me like one-on-one support, and that really helped me like thrive really towards the end. So I think you have to find the people that are going to help you the most once you're in college, because teachers are in high school, or that's their job, that's what they do. But I think in college, professors, that's not so much their role. They're more there to teach.
Mm-hmm. But there are professors that are willing to sit down with you. I mean, they do have office hours, and they really encourage you to use them. So I encourage you to use them as well. Like they really are there to help you. They want you to do well. They want you to get an education.
Yes, use office hours, especially, unrelated to TS, but it's a great way for your professors to get to know your face, and, they'll see you in class and they'll make the connection. And it's a great way to set yourself up if you need letters of recommendation for grad school, that kind of stuff. That was something that I learned a little bit too late. I wish I had taken better, I wish I had utilized it more. Let's see.
Are the sorority myths true? Are they?
I was just about to say that. Sorority myths, I don't really feel like a lot of the myths are true. Like the hazing, my sorority, at least, my school was very anti-hazing. My sorority was anti-hazing, and I was actually in a lot of exec positions within the sorority, and we learned a lot about how to deal with like anti-hazing. So we didn't have any sort of hazing. I felt like it was a great way to make friends, and really like different types of friends. I don't know how to describe it, but it's different than meeting someone in your class. It's like you all chose this same sorority for whatever reason. And so it's kind of a different experience. And like I said, it's not for everybody. I found it to be very useful for me, and I'm glad I did it. And I would do it again, going back. So. Let's see.
So is there, let's see. So someone asked how did you deal with very loud vocal tics in large lecture settings? Did you let professors know? For me, I did let my professors know when I had loud vocal tics. I didn't deal with any corporalia in school, but I used like CBIT skills to help me deal with the loud tics too in school.
Right. So I have mild cochlealia, so I try to whisper as much as I can to try to also not just suppress, but like try to satisfy the tic in my best ability where it's not, distracting others. But in certain situations, just walk out of the room is what I would do. And absolutely, I would let my professors know in that case so they don't get on to you, because I know that I definitely had professors that would get upset when you left the room for whatever reason, just because it's their time and not your time or something like that. So I would tell them for that reason, just so they're not taking points off for whatever reason, or outing you in front of everybody.
Cool. So I think now we can go through Hayley. Both Haley's and I, we came up with tips that we would recommend for people going to college with Tourette's or in school with Tourette's. So we can go through those now and kind of share some insights. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. So Hayley with one Y.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Right. So my top 3 tips, just to start, try not to worry about what others think. I know for me personally, that is quite a challenge that I think I might have finally have been able to overcome within these last few years, because not everybody is going, unfortunately, not everybody's going to accept you or understand you or even try to understand you. I think more people will than you think, but the harsh reality is that not everybody's going to understand. So I don't think it's worth worrying over, in my opinion. If there's just going to be people, then don't have them be a part of your life if they're not going to be understanding. My next tip is to find a good balance between school and fun and activities. Obviously, you're paying for college, so you really want to utilize everything that they have to offer and focus and get your education in the best ability that you can. But when it comes to your mental health, not even just your tics, but if you have anxiety as well, or OCD like me and Hayley, find a good balance between schoolwork and fun and activities. I made sure I took time to relax, watch TV. I would take a couple walks sometimes, or just even a walk from my library to my dorm room would be a good way for me to clear my mind. And also, having fun. I mean, college, you do want to have a good fun experience, get to know people, mingle. There are socials and there are parties. Be responsible, of course, but I think it is good to find that balance, whatever works for you. And my last tip is just to be yourself. There are plenty of people out there, and you're the only you that you can be, so be the best that you can.
That's awesome.
I love that last one. Sorry, I had to get my laptop charger, so let me plug this boy in real quick.
Okay. I can go through my tips real quick while she does that. So my first tip is to be your own advocate, because if you don't advocate for yourself, no one will. So learn how to advocate for yourself and practice that. If you're still in high school, practice being a good advocate and for what your needs are and what's important to you. My second piece of advice is to find what you love so you can do what you love. It took me a semester to figure out that I wanted to be a nurse, but I really found that once I figured out that's what I wanted to do, it drove me to keep going through the challenges, like, because school can be really hard and all the long hours studying, and with the tics, it can even be more challenging. So finding something you love to do will really fuel you to keep going. And I love what I do now, so I really recommend just really figuring out what you love to do, and then do it. And my third piece of advice is TS is your superpower, not your excuse. So always know that the tics make you stronger, more resilient, and that's not an excuse to have a pity party. You know, we're so strong because of all we go through.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So my tips weren't as deep as you guys. I like the ones that you did better, but I already talked about a couple of mine. Making sure that your professors know at the beginning of the semester. I ran into this my first semester. I was in a math class and I ran out of time on like 3 quizzes, and I was panicking, and I had a test coming up, and I hadn't given my letter to my letter from my neurologist to the disability, because I had to get a new one every year. Maybe it was my second year of college. I hadn't gotten the new one yet, so I hadn't been able to give the proof to my professors, and I was panicking and, you know, worried that I was gonna end up running out of time on my test. It ended up working out, luckily, but that was a really bad experience. So I think getting it out of the way at the beginning, making sure you take care of that, is really, really important. And then keeping a planner, I already talked about that. And then study a little bit each day. I did not learn very good study tips when I was in high school, or really even early college. Let's see. I never really had a lot of hardships with school, luckily. And so I didn't learn how to study until I was like later in my degree. So I just took each subject, each class that I had, I studied a little bit each day, maybe like an hour or 2 each day. That way I didn't get overwhelmed and cram at the very end. And each day of the week, I studied a specific subject. That way I knew what I was studying. I knew how much I was studying. That really, really helped for me. Yeah. And also I'm going to add in there, be yourself. Let's see, Emily. I don't know, some colleges might be different. Mine every year did require me to give a new letter, just like an updated one. I don't know if everyone's does that, but mine did.
And I never went through DSS, so I really never had to provide anything. I just talked to my professors, and they were like, all right, they were cool.
Yeah, I didn't have to have a letter every year, just if I was changing accommodations or if I needed something extra in addition to what I had, but they just carried it through every year at my school. So it's probably just something you'll have to reach out to the schools you go to and talk to them and figure out what their policies are.
Yep.
All right, so does anyone else have any final questions? Let's see.
Thanks, Sarah.
Wait.
Hope you're able to give you some good tips.
I was trying to think of some more in my head that I could think of that we could answer, because I feel like a lot of them are pretty generic, but sometimes more specific questions are going to vary between schools. Just depending. Like I said, I went to community college first, and then I transferred later on.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Haley and Katie. This is Natalie from the Tourette Association. I just want to thank you guys so much. This was so useful. I wish I had these tips when I was in college. I feel like this would have been just great for me. Definitely agree with the planner and studying a little bit each day. That really helped, so I think these are just so amazing, and thank you guys so much for all of this useful information.
All right, well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we could provide any advice. I love giving advice to people. Even if I don't take it myself, I give good advice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We
Thank you
appreciate
so much. This is really fun.
I hope we can. I saw someone earlier in the chat said we should do something about jobs. That would be really awesome. If we
I would love to do that one actually.
do about jobs.
Yeah, I would appreciate that one.
Oh,
I
cool.
think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So we'll have to see if we can cook something up with that.
Yeah, I think, I was just texting the team. I think that's a great idea too. I know a lot of people are asking questions about that.
Yeah. All right.
I think like I did want to add one more thing, if that's okay, when it comes to classes. I know right now everybody is pretty much doing online classes due to COVID. So if that continues, then I think that would be something that we could talk about as well. I'm really hoping that we're out of this as quickly and as soon as possible, but I think that's something that we could talk about further as far as doing classes online, because I know that comes with its own difficulties, not even if they're just not normal online classes.
I have a ton of experience with that. A lot of my degree was online. So I can't think of any like specific tips off the top of my head, but yeah, I think that I agree with you, Hayley. If this continues, I think it'd be helpful to have something about the online classes and dealing with COVID and everything.
Although a lot of them you'll be doing at home, so you can mute your mic whenever you want and tick as loudly and nobody will care.
Yeah.
So there's positive about it that I've thought about. But yeah, I think that's something that is to be considered. Hopefully, like I said, this will be over before next semester and maybe the summer, but I'm not sure.
Let's hope so.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.